Ben Shapiro is one of the biggest digital influencers in the Western media, and his stance in Israeli-Palestine conflict is unacceptable. That is why I would like to try to expose this guy first. As a sample, I am using his YouTube video named I'm a Jew. Yeah, the title already quite clearly tells you cannot really expect his opinion or taste to be out of a favoritism or self-victimization, and I could essentially end the video right here and say to not trust this guy, but let us try to be more thorough and critically review his reaction on what happened on 7th October and what the Israel and the rest of the world should do about it.
I am a Jew. Those have been the words of the Jewish people for 3 millennia. Those were the words of the men, women, and children of Masada. Those were the words of the followers of Bar Kokhba. Those were the words of Jews in Granada in 1066 and the Rhineland in 1096 and Khmelnytsky from 1648 to 1657 and Kishinev in 1903 and Hebron in 1929. Those were the words of Jews in Auschwitz and Treblinka. Those were the last words of Daniel Pearl. And those are my words too. They're the words of my parents, the words of my wife, my children. Over the weekend, my people, the Jewish people, were attacked. They're murdered, mutilated. Our women were raped. Our children were kidnapped. This happened millions of times before to millions of Jews across history. Jew hatred exists because evil exists, because there are people who have, for literally all of human history, hated the Jews and sought to strike at them while they are weak, who have blamed the Jews for their own problems, who have crafted complex conspiracy theories about the supposed power of the Jews, who have sought to destroy, to murder, to mutilate, to rape the Jews, from Pharaoh to Haman, from Hitler to Hamas. The words of the Nazis are indistinguishable from the words of the Hamas Charter.
He is really being emotional here, and he is definitely trying to bring as much of attention from the audience as possible, reminding them about the tragic history of Jews, why these events happened, and why the terrorist attack happened on 7th of October in particular. However, that is not inherently important or relevant. What needs to be pointed out is that there is an important issue about his genuine frustration and anger in general. Despite I'm not even close to being an expert in any of the Abrahamic religions, I'm aware that Jews believe in the afterlife. The obvious question comes in here. Why would he care so much about the evil forces around the world, and specifically about the suffering of Jews throughout history? To put it simply, we will all have an eternal afterlife. Life is short, death is imminent, and the struggles of the people's lives should not hold much personal meaning for you. So far, I came up with 2 alternate explanations. Either he truly has a strong sense of justice in this mortal world, which could potentially align with his religious beliefs, or he is a deranged hypocrite who is only interested in the Jews and would turn a blind eye when people he feels connected to commit crimes against others, or even glorify and promote them. Leave a comment on which explanation you agree with, or if you have another reasonable suggestion.
The chain of Jew hatred is unbroken.
Just as hatred and prejudice exist towards any other minority, it should not be surprising for anyone familiar with the basics of human history or psychology.
For 2 millennia, since the destruction of the last Jewish dynasty in the Holy Land of Israel, those Jew haters were ascendant. Well, no longer. That is the promise of the state of Israel. Never again. The Jews will not stand by. They will not be murdered. They will not leave their biblical homeland. They will not surrender. They will be strong and courageous, chazak v'amatz, as Joshua said 3,000 years ago. Israel is indispensable. This weekend proved it is indispensable. Its presence is a miracle. Its strength a gift. Thank God for the state of Israel.
Firstly, I should say he's definitely very proud he has a portion of DNA of the semi-fictional figures of the past. I mean, he has a right to do so, but this is a red flag considering the context. For the second, saying that the Israel state is a gift is a miracle and praising the God himself for that makes zero connection to the reality, and probably the only external purpose is to further derationalize the viewer's perception of Israel's history. In fact, its presence and current military strength is neither a gift or a miracle, but is a result of a well-documented process. The Israel state was established as a result of a conquest started in 1918 by Zionist migrants, or occupiers essentially, who have been backed by the Western powers, particularly by the British Empire. Since then, they have a strong financial and military support of the West. To give a simplest example, only in 2022, Israel received more than $3 billion as a military aid from the USA alone. Considering how often he references the religious books, I suppose at this point you shouldn't expect much rationale from Ben. But let us keep going.
There are people who say that anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism. Tell that to the dead women and children in Sderot. Tell that to Hamas, who proclaim in their charter, quote, Israel will exist and will continue to exist until Islam will obliterate it, just as it obliterated others before it.
Ben can cry and swear all he wants, but if he thinks that facts care about his feelings, he needs to be told he's completely wrong. Anti-Semitism is hostility to or prejudice against Jewish people. Anti-Zionism is an opposition to the establishment or support of the State of Israel. Obviously, anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism by their definitions, because state is a political institution and nationality is an ethnical group. However, one can be both anti-Zionist and anti-Semitic. Equating these two terms is a lie that likely intends to manipulate the viewers, fueling their attitude towards Muslims.
There are those who say that the Israeli-Arab conflict is a cycle of violence. Only the morally blind and obtuse could ever say such a thing. Today, I'm going to show you videos. And the videos I'm going to show you are going to be ingrained on the inside of your eyelids for the rest of your life, because this is what evil looks like. So look. Today, I'm going to show you videos that will be seared into your brains. Look, because this is what moral equivalence brings. The rape of women, the kidnapping of children, the murder of hundreds of innocents, including full families. Look.
Another vicious attempt to twist the reality of the situation. From the historical perspective, this conflict has been and will be continued to be considered a cycle of violence started back in 1918. Israel has developed its relationships with most Arab countries over time, but it has not resolved the Palestinian problem in an appropriate manner, while ignoring the threat posed by Hamas, and more than that, using Hamas as an institution to their strategic advantage. Expecting all Palestinians to stay peacefully, waiting their heritages slowly to die out or to be expelled gives nothing but negative signs regarding his logical and humanitarian views. In 30 days, since the start of the escalation, the IDF has established a total siege on the territory, damaged more than 40,000 buildings with numerous rocket and missile strikes, resulting in the deaths and injuries of more than 25,000 civilians. All of this constitutes unjustifiable, massive amount of war crimes, and the only thing a reasonable person can expect is for the level of worldwide hatred towards Jewish to drastically spike up in the coming years, especially in the Arab countries.
For decades, we've been told that if you look evil in its face, that was somehow unsophisticated. That to pretend evil away was an act of intellectual virtue. That to cater to evil, to concede to evil, was the pathway toward a better, more peaceful world. It was a damned lie. Look.
What Ben Shapiro is saying here is correct, and it has a solid mathematical basis. Hence, it should never have been a topic for an argument among competent people in the first place. Also, if one or more of the agents are irrational, which is a fair statement, we are talking about a group like Hamas, it is also fair to apply specific approaches, such as minimizing the estimated negative income if the worst scenario of a conflict occurs. While Israel tries to act quote-unquote rationally by minimizing the casualties of its own soldiers through non-stop air strikes on the entire region and by ignoring the value of the people of Gaza, it does not utilize game theory concept correctly, at least because it ignores two crucial limiting factors: international law and the potential escalation of a conflict into a regional war. both of which should drastically change their optimal behavior.
There are those out there who are proclaiming the complexity of it all. Those people are fools. They are fools, and what is worse, they are enablers of evil. They are fellow travelers. They are justifiers of the worst human rights violators on the planet. People who target civilians and hide behind them.
This was nothing but an emotionally charged, borderline offensive accusation towards those who try to not divide things into plain black and white, but investigate the situation thoroughly before forming opinions and making decisions. Such behavior only further discredits himself as a source of information and harms his own people.
Today, I'm going to let evil show you its face. Do not turn away. Look. This weekend, this was the worst day for Jews since the Holocaust. Do not turn away. Look it in the face.
The number of Palestinian civilians killed in the last generation has far exceeded the number of Jewish casualties up to this day, despite the Palestinians being in a defensive position. If someone claims that the Hamas is the embodiment of evil, a metaphorical assertion but undeniably valid, what characteristics could be used to describe the state of Israel, which has committed a lot more war crimes over the decades, and particularly over the 7th of October.
And I know that you will. I know you will, because I'm a Jew, and because I'm an American. Americans love justice. Americans love the good. Americans resonate to the book of Psalms that says, hate evil, those who love the Lord. Hate evil, and fight it. Americans always have, and they always will. I know we will.
I'm not sure where he dug up the claims like America loves justice, good, etc., but the history of the United States of America directly contradicts all of them. The USA has committed a tremendous amount of crimes since its foundation in North America, the Philippines, Japan, Afghanistan, Vietnam, Iraq, and practically none of the executives and militants were not held accountable for their actions. This fact alone destroys all of his claims. If he genuinely believes that all Americans love justice and hated evil, he basically further discredits himself as a public media source. If he does not truly believe that, he further proves his malicious, manipulative attempts to engage hate towards Palestinian people and solidarity with Israel.
I'm a Jew. Those aren't just the words of martyrs. They're the words of heroes. They're the words of Moses in front of Pharaoh, and Jonah on the boat, and Esther in front of Ahasuerus. They're the words of the Maccabees, and they are the words of the soldiers currently serving in Gaza, protecting their families, and protecting their children, and protecting their land. I am a Jew. Let me tell you what those words mean. They mean I'm a child of the people of the book, the people who brought the world Moses' message of freedom, and Jeremiah's message of justice, and Isaiah's message of hope, the people who represent the root of the values of the West, the people who preserve the tradition thousands of years old stretching back to Sinai, the people of the Ten Commandments and the splitting of the Red Sea, of the Holy Temple, and of Abraham's one God. I'm a Jew. I'm a member of a people who will not be victimized again. Israel's called up 300,000 reservists. People are volunteering in mass numbers. Flights into Israel are packed. Flights out are largely empty. 150% of volunteer numbers have been hit.
I do not see a purpose of discussing his references to religious books at this point, so I consider reasonable to ignore them. Israel was never a victim in this conflict, and now it holds a far superior power by receiving an additional support over Western countries. The act of mass violence of 7th of October is not justifiable, but easily explainable with the continuous oppression which has lasted for more than 50 years. A radical organization conceptually similar to Hamas would have arose in Brazil, China, Russia, Angola, or practically every other country where the Zionists would aim to establish their own state on top of ours.
Now I want to read you some text from people I know, brothers, sisters, friends in Israel. This from a member of my security detail in Israel, who we just left a couple of days ago. He's been called up. He's 25 years old. Quote, on my way to join my brothers in combat. And this from a close friend, a doctor from the United States, who has responded to Israel's call urgently for doctors. Quote, I couldn't sit in Florida knowing what's happening. And this from a soldier in Gaza. Quote, today our hearts beat with fear. Who among us is going to die? And who will return safe and sound? We are your messengers in battle. We fight so that you can live in peace with your children, so you can stay alive. We are your protection. Will you be one of us? We go on this dangerous mission knowing that some of us will not return, but will ascend to our next position in a storm to heaven as Eliyahu the prophet did. We go there with devotion and dedication. We ask you to be our protection through your prayers. Protect us by going beyond yourselves through spirituality and good deeds. Pray for us. Pray that you will not see another mother bury her son. Pray that you will not see our women as widows raising our children in tears. Pray that our children will grow up knowing who their fathers are. Pray that we eliminate the terrorists who aim to destroy us and that we do not harm innocent women and children. Please, we implore you, as you read this, don't just move on to the next thing you do. Say a chapter of Psalms. Awaken King David to ask the Almighty for full redemption and peace for the whole world. Take upon yourself another good deed. And please pass this on. I'm sure your prayer will make a difference. Remember, we are in this together. We are on the front lines with weapons, and you fight with us in your prayers. Every word of your prayer gives us strength, protection, and success.
I have not come across a prayer that could effectively safeguard millions of Palestinian people during continuous bombings. If you happen to find one, feel free to write it down. It would be interesting to explore how it is meant to work out.
I'm going to finish with one more thing that we say and that everyone should remember. The people of Israel lives. Our Father in heaven lives. God bless you. God bless the United States. God bless the state of Israel and all the people who are going to go into harm's way to protect innocent lives. And may God avenge the blood of the innocent.
It is quite evident at this point that Ben Shapiro possesses a selective bias, as his arguments only seem to make sense when the full context or crucial points are ignored. This results in a false narrative that misleads potentially uninformed viewers and followers. Despite being a well-educated person, he has a skewed, one-sided understanding of American and Israel history. Such combination is particularly dangerous, given that he has a great influence and few people have critical thinking skills and are not easily prone to biases and manipulation. His rhetoric serves a purpose to protect the interests of the Jewish community and the State of Israel. The issue lies in his approach, which is not merely wrong. It is outdated and poses a severe danger to the Jewish people. Thank you for watching this video. If you have found it to be interesting and informative, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. If you have any interesting thoughts, do not hesitate to leave a comment down below. Until next time.
How important is the truth to you? Because you've got this huge following now, massive podcast, tens of millions of people watching your stuff on social media and so on. How important is truth to you now, that everything comes out of your mouth or that you write is factual?
I mean, it's the most important thing to me because I have to sleep at night. I mean, it's something that I try to think about as much as humanly possible is never lie to your audience. Never say to your audience a thing that you know to be not true, and try to follow the best data possible. And that does mean that you're very often having to be more nuanced than sort of the politics of the situation may allow, because the easiest position in politics is always to take the hardest right or the hardest left position, the sort of most pure, most easily understood position, or to just play the easiest game of all, which is, again, my opponent is a bad guy. My opponent is a person who hates your guts.
When we had our